Correct.
Here at Firestone Farm, it's the childhood home and birthplace of Harvey Firestone, who went on to create the tire and rubber company that we're all familiar with. But we're showing 1885. Harvey's about 16 years old, and he's learned how to run a business on his parents' merino sheep farm. Their second cash crop would have been the winter wheat that we just harvested here today. We have our Johnston self-raking reaper. We use that to harvest our wheat. We use a team of percherons to pull the reaper. They pull the machine, and as they're pulling, it's going to cut the wheat down. And then we have our team follow behind and tie those off into sheaves.
A self-rake reaper is one that has a gearing system that causes the arms of the reaper to come around in a sequence. And as they come around, they first rake the grain into the cutting bar to actually cut the grain. And then there's another arm that comes around, pushes that grain onto the platform where it accumulates into a gavel. And then as that arm comes around, at a precise moment, it pushes that gavel off the platform into the perfect sized bundle.
So before reapers came onto the scene, farmers would have to scythe their wheat down. So it'd be large teams of men scything their wheat and then doing everything by hand. When reapers came on, you could do the same work in the same amount of fields with less men. You could do it a lot faster.
You've got to harvest grain at a precise moment, and those laborers are in high demand and not always available. So the reapers were an insurance for the farmer. The Firestone Farm interprets the mid-1880s, and by that point, the Johnston Reaper Company is operating in Batavia, New York. The Johnston Reaper was the reaper very common in that northern wheat belt zone. Henry Ford picked that reaper because we had one in collections that could be easily restored for use.
Starting in January of 2022, we restored the Johnston self-raking reaper. It was still in operating condition, but a lot of the pieces had become worn or the paint was worn off of them. So even though it was still operating, it wasn't exactly representative of how it should have been in 1885.
The reaper that we have in the collection is difficult to put into any particular year. It's a Continental reaper. That was one of the models that the Johnston Company produced, and it could have been made anywhere from around 1876 into 1902. I was trying to find the catalog that most closely aligned with the object by appearances. And the appearances were tricky because most of the 1880s illustrations had these narrow sweep arms, and the one we have in collections has wide sweep arms with the word Johnston originally written across them. So what we then had to do was document what was most appropriate for an 1880s reaper.
A lot of original paint was still on the reaper, but a lot of it had worn off, so some pieces we weren't even sure if they were painted at one point or if they were supposed to be unpainted.
The reaper color was of interest because what is the color? Is it red with yellow pinstripes? Is it red with black pinstripes? And the catalogs sometimes delivered both of those.
There's definitely a balance in keeping it as historically appropriate as possible and making sure that it's safe and reliable for modern use. Some pieces needed to be machined, and one that stands out is the bevel gear that needed to be reproduced. In my left hand, I have the original cast gear that is cracked and parts of some of the teeth are missing. And in my right hand is a 3D printed model of our best guess of what the original pinion looked like when it was new. This goes right down here at the end of this shaft. You can see a little bit of the new one there and the old one next to it. There are definitely challenges to keeping 19th century equipment working, especially after it's had an initial lifespan. We have to learn how they operate and how to use them properly because most people who used them originally aren't around anymore. And in some cases, we need a historic machine to make a historic part. but fortunately we have our 19th century machine shop here that's fully equipped with everything we need.